We're here with Morgan Lanigan, our board president with One Change. Morgan, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
This is an exciting day for us, Morgan. We've got a lot of people coming in and out of the building, and people are learning about some of the programs that they didn't even know that existed here in our neighborhood.
Well, it's exactly. We were just talking about this just a second ago about how much it's nice to be able to tell people about all the things we do, but it's also another thing to show them the impact, I guess, that's coming through. Because when people come through the door, they finally understand the full scope of everything that we pull together, and that's kind of the really exciting part. That's the part I like between it all. But to have the people then realize, oh, I didn't know you do this. Wow, you guys do that.
And I think it's sometimes hard to articulate, but once you come in, you experience it, and nothing teaches better than experience. So yeah, we're excited about today.
Yeah, I think that's it. Like if we get people through the door,
yeah,
then you get them hooked, and that's how we've been. Over the years, we've got 68,000 people through the door this year, tens of thousands of hours of volunteer time. Once we get you in the door, you're hooked.
You are hooked. Yeah, we actually worked out recently, so we had over 2,000 people volunteered with us last year, and if we look at a minimum wage value for those hours that they committed, it's $250,000. So that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. That's a lot of value, and I guess that's kind of the thing. Like for a nonprofit organization, for us to be able to bring in that kind of value through volunteers, which we really rely on our volunteers.
We do.
There's no way that we could do it without them. But it's that kind of impact we're being able to show. These people are willing to give their time to our organization, which only reaps more benefits, and you get more people in the door. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful feeling, right?
I know when I came to work for One Change, actually Morgan was one of the people that interviewed me, and the thing that I remember most from my interview was something that you actually said, which was, if you're successful in getting this position, don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I thought, wow, what a message to come from a board of directors. It was try things, test them, see if they work, and if they work, we continue, and if they don't work, we move on to the next thing. Is that the way that One Change has always operated?
Yeah, I think from the ground up, we realized as an organization, I wasn't there from the very first days, but I think that experimentation has been able to show. Like we knew the organization started because we knew we needed to start somewhere. Yeah. We needed to try things because the status quo wasn't working. So certainly we needed to try and experiment, and I think that's been kind of ingrained in the DNA of One Change up until this point, is to try different things. Because what is the harm in trying, right? Because we don't try, we're not going to see if it's successful or not. And if it's successful, great, we'll carry on and we'll learn more lessons. But you know what, is if we fail, we'll learn even more lessons as to what doesn't work. And so for me, experimentation is at the core of what we do, because I don't know that there's no clear-cut solution on exactly how to fix poverty and how to crime and all these things like that. There's a lot of different scenarios that need to come together. It's going to be different from one community to the next. And I think over the last 15 years with One Change, we've figured out what works for us, and we're always continuing to learn. And I think that's the best part. Is if we're always learning, we can always adapt to what the community is telling us, what the community needs, and how we deliver it to meet those needs. It's the only way that we've had the success that we've had over these last 15 years.
One of the things when we were walking through the building today and talking to some of the people delivering programs, and as we were going by our West program, the One West Workplace Essential Skills, they were having their graduation today. And in fact, today, everyone who graduated from the One West program is going to a full-time job.
That's fantastic.
This has been our experience in the neighborhood, hasn't it? I mean, we've had some pretty wonderful successes with our employment programs in partnership with post-secondary education, training, and labor. How do you feel about that continuing? What would you like to see happen in the future? Any thoughts?
Well, I think that's kind of one of the pieces of experimentation that we talked about. We took it upon ourselves to develop these programs, and we've employed hundreds of people out of this neighborhood. That's a huge success, because that's certainly one of the biggest barriers to the effects that are being felt in this community, right? Yeah. So to be able to take that experimentation, to be able to give people jobs, is really rewarding, because people like to feel useful and be able to give back to their neighborhoods and give back to their families as well, right? So that is a testament itself is a wonderful experience, and we've been able to show that to our partners as well too, and our partners have actually been impressed that we're getting bigger and better success, I guess, than even some of the big provincial departments and
Yeah.
city departments and things like that too.
Yeah.
So that's really rewarding for me personally. I know for us as an organization. But to continue those things going forward, we have lineups of people who now want to partner with us because there's industries that are short on workers and all these things like that. So to be able to design and help our employers as well as our residents is certainly a win-win for everybody. The province wins; they get revenues from income from these people who are now getting income for the first time. The employers, can sell more services and they can generate more revenue, which helps our communities, which helps brings in revenue to help all those things. So it's all these multiplier effects that we're seeing from these things, and sometimes it's hard for us to quantify exactly how much that affects the community. We can, we try and quantify as much as we can, but the effects are exponential. And so for every one job that we can give a person in here in this neighborhood is going to multiply many more times outside of the community to effects that we can't even see or know. Sometimes even just the pride of a child seeing their parent go back to work for the first time in 5 years or 10 years, that we can't measure that, but we see that in the longer term view of our neighborhoods, right? And so that's over the 15 years of One Change up to this point, we've seen a lot of that. We're starting to see that cycle happen. We're trying to break that cycle and get new perspectives. So continue on those paths is wonderful. Seeing those programs grow, getting our residents involved and employed.
That's half the battle.
That is half the battle.
Half
That's
the
it.
battle. Yeah, it's really wonderful, and I think for me, one of the things that I love about our organization is when people come to us, sometimes they're not feeling very good about themselves. Mm-hmm. Living in poverty brings its own stresses. They're natural. It's not unusual. If you're living in poverty, it is a physiological response sometimes to experience that kind of intense stress. And when we were walking through, I was chatting with Nancy Savoy from the YMCA, and they deliver our parent-child program. And she talked about families coming in feeling quite isolated because of the issues they're dealing with their children. And she said half of the battle really is for them when parents actually realize I'm not alone. And that's what I see here. Mm-hmm. Like, no one is alone. They come in and they find there's a place for them here. John McKenzie, our city councillor, was saying out there, he said, it's a place kind of where everybody knows your name. Mm-hmm. And it's true. It's more than that even. We know the families.
Yes.
And we know what people are dealing with, and we try to respond to their needs. But everything we do here comes from the neighborhood. Our residents decide our trajectory, really, mm-hmm. don't they?
It's true, and I think that's always been ingrained is that kind of grassroots level, I think, in our neighborhood, and that we're not successful as an organization if we're not listening to that and responding to that. And I think that's where we've seen the success we've had. Our growth's been exponential over the last few years, but exactly that, like once you break that barrier that's in front of you, that you realize that there are services out there, there are people that can help you, that want to help you, and genuinely feel that need to help them. Once you break that barrier down, we get them through the doors here and we can provide them with that. The outpouring of emotion and support and happiness and gratitude, it's amazing to watch that transformation in people. And sometimes it's just that realization. And so having our outreaches in the community, even just to come in for a cup of coffee, can have a great impact on those person, because all of a sudden we're able to have a conversation with them. We're able to know them as a person, to be able to understand what it is they're going through, and to help them realize that they aren't the only ones either, and that we can help them through it. That's probably one of the most rewarding things to be able to see working with One Change here, is to be able to see that transformation in these people. I've been with the organization for probably 6 years now, and I've met a lot of people over those times, and I can see the progression over that time, and that's really exciting. That's really exciting for me.
What some people may not know is that you actually were responsible for the design of this facility.
I guess that's technically true, yeah.
Do you want to describe that process? Because it actually turned into a major award for us, didn't it?
It's true, yeah. We started this, the City of St. John decided through a lot of conversation with the community that investing in the Nick Nicole Community Centre was very important. And that was a tough decision to make, because the city is not rolling around in loads of cash. So for the city to have recognized kind of the importance of the Nick Nicole Community Centre, and that One Change is the perfect partner for that, in a time of tight cash was a pretty big deal. So to put up $3 million for this was great. And then through my day job, I manage an architectural firm. And so we were brought in by the City of St. John to work with One Change, and that was an eye-opening experience as well too. This was before my involvement with One Change directly on the board. But to then get to know the community and figure out what it is they want to see in the facility, how they want to use the facility. I remember meeting with a group of teenagers, for example. What is it that you want to get out of this facility? And they were there with markers and drawings, and we sat right down with them and we listened to them, because really, as architects and engineers, we're not the designers. We're merely the facilitators. So how do we take the experience and desires of the community and turn that into a language that is this building?
Yeah.
And I think that once, it was a long time to get the project done, a couple of years over a couple of phases, but now we're starting to see that this building is kind of the frozen, almost like an icicle or a snowflake of the desires of the community that kind of grew out of that one nugget of water that turned into this beautiful snowflake. And that I think was kind of the defining element of the whole project, was that community involvement. And so we've won a number of awards on this facility. The Association of Consulting Engineers Canada, the New Brunswick division, we won one of their platinum award for that as well too. One of the largest awards you can win in Atlantic Canada for architecture, the Lieutenant Governor's Award of Architecture Merit. We won that as well too. So but the defining feature of all of that was that the judges, and this is independent judges who don't know the community necessarily, or this project per se, they read the award submission, and what came through to them was the involvement of the community throughout the entire process. And that, I think, is more amazing than anything. These are architecture awards and engineering awards, but really the recognition wasn't necessarily about the building itself, but the process to build that facility to respond to the community. And I think that's actually kind of rare in architecture. We go for these sexy shots and the really beautiful materials, but we sometimes forget that the building is for the users, it's for the people, it's for the community, and how do you develop that heart of the community? And that's what we've built here.
Really have, yeah.
And it shows,
It does.
The old facility had, I don't know, maybe 500 or 600 people a year come through the building. We're at 68,000 people this year alone.
Just coming through our doors.
Just coming through the doors, and that's a remarkable testament to how this has really solidified as the heart of our community.
It really is. And I think you actually said something there that speaks to something you said earlier, but you got involved with One Change through that project. And you haven't been able to get away from us since?
No,
You're in.
And it's true. I'm a little bit of a serial volunteer. I love to. My desire for civic duty is very strong. But you know what? What we do here at One Change probably isn't where my training lies or where my day-to-day passion lies in architecture and engineering, things like that. But it's probably one of the most rewarding things that I do on a daily basis. To see transformation in people and the excitement that builds, and just getting people away from their everyday surroundings, even for 15 minutes a day, to see the smiles and the impact on these people. It's amazing. It's more powerful than probably any other volunteering that I've done at this organization.
It is a pretty exceptional place, yeah, for sure. Is there anything else you want to share with us, Morgan?
I love One Change.
Yeah. Is there anything? Let's say maybe 5 years from now, where do you want us to be?
Well, I think we've got. There's one thing that probably One Change hasn't ever let stop them, and that is ambition. I guess we have no shortage of ambition. We want to continue to grow. I think in 15 years we've been able to show that we are trustworthy, we're committed, and we rarely fail. We've been pretty darn successful. So I think we can certainly see that going forward. I want to see this facility expanded. I want to take over the school next door. I want to offer more employment programs and all the things that we're having trouble fitting in our doors right now, because we're busting at the seams. I want to see us take over this community, and not just the old North End, but broaden that out to the entire North End. All our partners in Crescent Valley and Anglin Drive and all those different neighborhoods as well too. We can help everyone.
We can, as long as we're together.
That's right.
Because together, we are one. So the only other thing I wanted to ask you about is something that we haven't talked about yet, is the establishment of the Kiwanis North End Play Park. I mean, that was a huge endeavor for our community, and it took a few years to make it happen, but it was really a testament to what neighborhoods can do when they work together. Is there anything you'd like to share about that?
Well, it is pretty amazing because if you look at the achievement, there's very few playgrounds, even within the city of St. John, that are owned and operated by private entities. Most of them we rely on the cities and other level of governments to be able to provide those for us. And so this is a really good example of a community coming to the city and saying, you know what, this is something we need and we want for our community, and we're gonna make it happen. And we did.
And we did. And we actually didn't use any city investment for that.
And that's exactly it. Like, despite that, we still made it happen. We found the money, we found the partners. We have incredible partners that have come to the table to help us get that done. All the hours and hours and hours devoted by a lot of our volunteers was certainly one way to make it happen as well too.
Mark Hughes, I mean, local business leader, just a champion for this project as well.
You're right. He brought a lot of people to the table, provided a lot himself to the project. So Mark Hughes, we owe a lot to him and Kiwanis and all that.
And certainly River Cross donated the land, and in fact, an interesting piece of that was the lot wasn't as big. We wanted more land. And if you recall, there was a piece of land that Mark and I had talked about, and he said, I'm keeping my eye on it. And he watched that land until it went to an affordable price, and then he just bought it for us.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a pretty amazing neighborhood, and the commitment of residents to see this beautiful neighborhood to restore to what it once was, I think is our ultimate goal. And we've got some good things happening with the land bank project as well. Right. We were talking earlier today with Graham Savage, who's leading that project. And I think we're going to have some exciting announcements to make sure.
Cross our fingers, in the very near future we're going to be able to talk about that. But it's an exciting opportunity, and I'm really glad for the North End to be kind of the focus of the land bank at this point as well too, because we want to be able to, same idea, it's all about experimentation. It's not something that's currently done in New Brunswick. It's done elsewhere in Canada, but there's no reason we can't do it here. So let's try it in the North End.
For sure. Let's test it.
Let's test it, exactly. So I'm really hopeful that we're going to have some announcements here to be able to see how that gets implemented in the community. But it's a really exciting project, and it's bound to happen.
Okay.
It's going to happen.
Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay.